One thing that always resonates with me on executive leadership coaching is the importance of succession planning. Now, there's many schools of thought on how to go about it, some of which I think, such as cloning yourself, are downright silly. So who to ask for proper guidance? It has to be my friend, global human capital expert and managing partner of Parrish Partners, Dr. Jeanette Winters. Any excuse to chat to you, Jeanette? Welcome again.
Hey, Malcolm, how are things?
Hey, brilliant, brilliant.
Oh.
Look, I know that succession planning is important, but do all companies do it, and do they do it well?
All companies don't do it. They don't think about it. They think it's too soon. They think it's premature. They think it's not for them because of where they are in their business cycle. And they couldn't be more wrong. I was working with an organization, a well-known tech company, and I asked a group of leaders, there were about 24 of them in the room, and I put poster paper in another room, and I said, go put a star next to the year where you think, and quarter that you think you're going to retire. And so I had the information. So I knew of the 24, 20 of them were currently eligible for retirement, both based on their age and tenure. And so they went in and we looked and found out that 80% of this executive team planned to retire in the next year. They had done no succession planning. And the CEO looked at me and said, how did you know? And I said, they're all very wealthy. And we joked about that, but people were calling in rich. And so, you know, very unique circumstance, but there is obviously an organization that is, you know, top of their field, doing well, financial remuneration beyond what anybody could have expected. And people still are saying, there'll be a time for me to leave. So we can't get caught up in that false sense of security that we're doing so well, we don't need that. I think, frankly, it's exciting to think about succession planning because it really gives you the opportunity to look into the ranks, both internally and externally, to see if you had a new person, what might you want that's different from what you have today. And oh, believe me, cloning the current person or the incumbent that's in the job is absolutely the wrong thing to do. And yet we know historically that we have tended to hire people who look like us. They may be blonde, blue-eyed, and have long hair, or they may have gone to a certain university or studied a certain discipline. That's who we hire. That limits the innovation and the ideation that's so necessary. So here are some of the things that I recommend when my clients start looking seriously at succession planning. And this ought to be a time for celebration and to think outside the box. And I'll give you an example. I always, you know, people say, oh, if you're, you know, we do this because in case you're hit by a bus. Well, that's a very negative image. And so I say, what if people win the lottery? And people laugh. Well, I will tell you just a bit of a quick vignette. I was speaking with two colleagues in the southwest of the United States, and one of my colleagues from another organization was uncharacteristically late, and she came in and her hair was on fire. And I leaned over and I said, Susan, what's going on? She said, and this was a government lab that she managed, and she said, my security team won the lottery last night, and they all called in and said, see ya, we're all multi-millionaires now. So it does happen, right? So, you know, what do we look for? It went in good succession planning, learning agility. Everybody I talk to will tell you that being able to learn and being quick and nimble at it is your best skill. Curiosity. If someone is not curious, they think they know it all, nah, they are not the talent we need for the, you know, for the next generation. People need to be change capable and change ready because, man alive, there's a lot going on. Resilience. There is an attitude and aptitude for resilience, and we know that people who are resilient are able to be more change capable. They are much more agile and resilient. And so that's why we want to make sure we're looking for those folks. finally, we want to make sure that they are committed to people, because as leaders, whatever role that they are in, they darn straight better be people-centric. They need to be humble, and they need to be business people first. They can be marketing experts, HR experts, sales, but they need to understand how the company makes money.
Yeah.
So, and there are so many exciting things to do. And this should not be an empty designation. This is an opportunity for you to employ talent to get some really fun stuff and key stuff done that you haven't personally had the opportunity to do. Have stretch assignments. Make sure that you are using rotation programs. Bring people in for short-term projects. Those are great opportunities. Somebody's going on maternity leave, or somebody's on sabbatical or a long vacation. Backfill with high potential and succession planning candidates. Use this as a way to test someone's mettle and readiness. And of course, they're going to stub their toe. And that's why we, as the current leaders, need to stay close. And that's where HR can be great advisors and coaches. But the key to effective strategic and succession planning, man alive, that's to look with a sense of vibrant energy at development and offering people a way to grow today for what we might have to call on them to do just as soon as tomorrow.
That's brilliant advice. My only worry about it is that my wife and business colleague will be watching that and she'll be starting on my succession planning, and I'm not old enough to play golf yet. What in your mind is the best way to go about proper and effective succession planning then? Is it a step-by-step approach?
I think that it has to be part of your talent planning mindset. And the organizations that have done it most successfully have either a quarterly or semi-annually. Once a year is insufficient. But on a regular basis, looking at the talent and to note, I have a routine process that I call People Day. Spend 4 or 5 hours with the executive team and go around and say, who's had a really big win and what skills did we uncover that we didn't know that individual had? What were some failures that we had, and either what development needs to be undertaken with and for that individual or team, or what areas do we need to move them out of? Maybe they are better at the inside data and analytics than speaking, for example, to a group of investors. So really taking a hard look at those types of things and letting People Day be that once a quarter or at least twice, 3 times a year, where you're looking at your talent, really great successes, stubbing of toes, maybe even some pronounced failures, and moving that along to see what you need and when you think you're going to need it, and the readiness level of your talent in-house, as well as whether or not you need to be augmenting your talent with external hires. And people needs to be, your people and your talent strategy needs to be an ongoing discussion. When you talk about your business strategy, you should have a concomitant discussion right then and there about your talent strategy, because anything you change in your business needs to be reflected in your talent. Those are the people that are most successful.
Brilliant. Amongst all of that exceptional advice there, let's just pull something out a little bit again to reinforce it. How far in advance should succession planning start for, say, C-suite or board members? Should it be ongoing in case a business needs to, say, dismiss a leader?
Absolutely. It should always be ongoing. And the thing you'll have to do, though, is to make sure that that is understood. That is not a threat, but it is business continuity. It is business insurance. Unfortunately, we've all had situations where people become gravely ill, or a family member becomes gravely ill, something that pulls them away from their role and responsibilities. And so you need to know who you have internally or what your plan is going to be if you suddenly lose access to that talent at the C-suite or in other designated important key roles. So it's never too soon. In fact, it's an insurance policy. We've talked before, Malcolm, that 1 out of 2 executives will flame out in their first year of existence. CEOs in the United States have less than a 5-year tenure. So succession planning is something that should be done currently with hiring somebody, because you may have somebody in there today, but either they, maybe they don't like it there, or maybe they don't like the job, or they don't like you, or they, even more importantly, that they're tapped to do bigger and better things in your organization. So no one should be considered indispensable. And if you have key person dependence, that is a vulnerability that can be crippling to an organization. And I would strongly urge companies to look at that as soon as they can.
So with succession planning being so important, then what are the top 3 or 4 mistakes that businesses often make about it?
Anointing people, it's sort of an all due respect, the heir to the throne.
Right.
Oh, well, Bob has got his, his minion. He likes Jerry. And so it doesn't matter who we bring to Bob, Jerry's going to be it. That sort of narrow-minded thinking is going to preclude, and that really, Bob is probably advocating for Jerry because Jerry looks and acts like Bob. And so that's one of the biggest things, just turning only to your friends and allies. Very dangerous. The second thing is not doing it and not looking at it soon enough. And companies tell me every day, oh, we're not ready for that. Oh, we've got more priorities. The thing of it is, if you give yourself 3 or 4 hours a quarter, you can begin looking at 3 or 4 key positions and starting the process without making it, an annual trek to the, Mecca. It's very important, very, very important that it be done. And companies just don't do it. The third thing is that you are not looking just to replace the people you've got. And so unlike Bob, who is hiring somebody who's the mirror image of him, maybe they went to the same university, maybe they're both engineers, or maybe they're both electrical engineers. The third thing is we need to be looking future forward. What's going to be needed by the leaders of tomorrow? Mm-hmm. In retail right now, digital transformation is the topic of the moment. And yet you talk to consumer goods companies, and how many of them have people who are digitally capable? It's a very rare skill. And that's one of the things that's really holding some companies back. So those are the 3 things that I when we see people going awry, they're the things that we see.
Excellent. Yeah. So how at Parrish Partners do you go about helping a business decide on the criteria for, say, selecting a future CEO to succeed the existing one?
We do scenario planning. And so we do a SWOT analysis. What are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for the given organization? And from there, look at, if you have a threat in a given area, let's say it's the digital transformation area, go out and get staff. That is a threat. And then you look to see its impact of what it will be, and that's where you really have to focus. So that's our starting point, as well as looking at the C-suite and the designated key positions, so that we start the ball rolling, because those can take a bit more time, but get people in the mindset of thinking that it is our obligation to be thinking not just of having 1, 2, 3, maybe 5 people that are potential backfill for us.
Okay, so let's leave 3 things resonating or ringing in viewers' ears about effective succession planning.
The first thing is don't overcomplicate it. So it is start small, but start key, and focus on those areas which are of greatest vulnerability. Either it looks like somebody may be nearing retirement, or you get the sense that somebody's itchy and looking. So start small and start in the most critical of areas. The second thing is really do a sharp skills analysis for the entire organization aligned with your business strategy. So whether it's digital transformation going from brick and mortar, for example, to go to e-commerce, or it is having a greater work from home presence, all of those are opportunities to start, but you need to know what are the skills, and then you can begin looking and building annually, again, tying business strategy to talent strategy, but making sure that you are using the talent strategy effort to bring the right skills to the party. You know, you may have a great group of people and then find out that you have some key areas of vulnerability or absence of skill altogether that can be crippling to initiatives. And that's what you want to make sure you're not hiring too late. The third thing is, this should not be a label. This should be an invitation to have a conversation with the potentials who could be backfills for you, and really candid conversations. Would you be interested in a role like mine? And I've had people tell me, not on your life. Well, you know, okay, but you know, I joke a little bit, but there are people that say, well, if I were in your role, would I have to do as much public speaking? In the way the job is framed today, yes, you would. Well, that's not my gig. I don't like that. Or I prefer to do the in-house analytics, whatever. So the key is to understand what people want, not just assign a label and slap it on and say, I've got 5 people in my thread. The second thing is to make sure that you're developing them and that you're giving them rich opportunities that you know are stretch. You know they're not going to be ideal at it the first go, but that they learn and that they can see where they have to fill in the gaps personally. And then finally, it's a good opportunity to give people, you know, in the theater, you always have somebody who is a stand-in in case the lead gets sick. Well, this is a great opportunity to evaluate your talent, and you should be doing just that.
Excellent. Jeanette, you've brought a subject which people try to hide or do nothing about to life. And I hope that many of our viewers and listeners will say, let's get started. Thank you very much indeed for that.
Absolutely. Good day.